Lilith's story begins not as a demon, but as a goddess of extraordinary power. In Mesopotamian mythology, she appears as Lilitu, a wind spirit associated with fertility and sovereignty. Archaeological evidence from Sumerian artifacts dating back to 4000 BCE depicts her as a winged goddess with owl-like features, standing proudly upon lions, symbols of her dominion over both earth and sky. These early representations show her not as an agent of evil, but as a powerful feminine force deeply connected to the mysteries of life, death, and rebirth. The transformation of Lilith from goddess to demoness coincided suspiciously with the rise of patriarchal religious systems. Her original sin, the audacious belief that she was Adam's equal, formed from the same earth rather than from his rib. Jewish mystical texts recount how she refused to lie beneath Adam during intimacy, declaring, "We are both equal, for we are both created from the earth." When he attempted to force her submission, she uttered the forbidden name of God and fled Eden, choosing exile over subservience. This act of defiance against divinely ordained hierarchy marked her as dangerous in the eyes of religious authorities. By rejecting her proper place, Lilith embodied a threatening precedent, the possibility that divine order itself could be questioned. Consequently, her image was systematically corrupted in later writings, transforming her from a goddess of autonomy into a night demon who stole infants and seduced sleeping men. Samael's origins tell a parallel tale of fall from grace. Originally counted among the highest archangels, his name translates to venom of God or blindness of God, suggesting his dual nature as both divine enforcer and potential adversary. In some mystical traditions, he served as God's harsh judgment personified, tasked with testing humanity's devotion through trials and temptations. His position was not initially evil but morally ambiguous, the necessary darkness that gives meaning to light. The Zohar, the foundational work of Kabbalistic mysticism, describes Samael as riding a serpent during the temptation in Eden, not as the serpent itself, but as the spiritual force directing it. This subtle distinction reveals his function as an agent of divine will, even in apparent opposition. He wasn't acting against God's plan but fulfilling his cosmic role by introducing choice and consequence into human experience. What catalyzed Samael's transformation from complex divine agent to demonic adversary? His fatal attraction to Lilith. When these two powerful beings recognized in each other a shared spirit of rebellion and independence, their union created a force that threatened the carefully maintained boundaries between divine authority and creation. Their partnership represented a terrifying possibility, that cosmic power could exist outside the approved hierarchy, operating according to its own principles rather than obedient servitude. Ancient texts speak of their first meeting at the edges of creation, where the ordered universe gives way to primordial chaos. The Book of Raziel, attributed to the angel who taught forbidden knowledge to Adam, describes their encounter in veiled language. When the female who fled from the garden met the angel of severity at the shores of the great sea, a new fire was kindled in the heavens, neither holy nor unholy, but something other. This other fire power outside the binary of sacred and profane represented an existential threat to the cosmic order. Their union was not merely physical but metaphysical, combining feminine creative energy with masculine destructive force in perfect, terrible balance. Together, they embodied the complete circuit of existence: creation and destruction, beginning and end, mercy and judgment. Such wholeness, existing independent of divine sanction, could not be tolerated within religious frameworks built on hierarchical authority. And so began the systematic campaign to transform these complex figures into simplistic demons, stripping away their divine aspects and amplifying their threatening qualities. Lilith became the mother of demons, Samael the prince of darkness, their love story rewritten as an unholy alliance aimed at corrupting humanity. Yet traces of their true nature persist in esoteric texts and mystical traditions, preserved by those willing to look beyond orthodox interpretations. The Alphabet of Ben Sira, a medieval Jewish text, hints at their enduring connection despite divine attempts to separate them. God castrated Samael lest the demon and his female companion, Lilith, give birth to more demons upon the world. This extreme divine intervention speaks to the perceived power of their union, a power so threatening it required cosmic intervention to contain. In their fall from divine grace, Lilith and Samael became more than mere supernatural entities. They transformed into powerful symbols of rebellion against arbitrary authority, of questioning established wisdom, and of the dangerous allure of forbidden knowledge. Their story resonates across time precisely because it touches on a fundamental human impulse, the desire to determine one's own destiny, even at great cost. The union between Lilith and Samael represents more than a mere supernatural romance. It embodies a transmission of forbidden knowledge that religious authorities have sought to suppress for millennia. Their partnership created a current of mystical wisdom flowing outside sanctioned channels, offering dangerous alternatives to orthodox understanding of reality. At the heart of this forbidden knowledge lies the concept of duality transcended. While conventional religious teachings emphasize strict separation between good and evil, light and darkness, divine and profane, the Lilith-Samael union suggests a more complex cosmology. Ancient Gnostic texts recovered from Nag Hammadi speak of their teachings as the marriage of opposites through which true wisdom is born. This alchemical union, the sacred joining with the profane, became the foundation for numerous occult traditions that survive in fragmented form today. The Book of Abramelin, a grimoire dating to the 15th century, but containing much older material, alludes to secret rituals involving invocation of both entities simultaneously. These ceremonies were not acts of demonic worship, as church authorities claimed, but attempts to access the primordial wisdom that exists in the synthesis of opposing forces. The text warns that such rituals are perilous to body and soul, yet contain the keys to liberation from the prison of ignorance. Practitioners sought not power for its own sake but gnosis, direct experiential knowledge of reality's true nature. Perhaps most controversial are the sexual mysteries attributed to Lilith and Samael's teachings. While religious orthodoxy regulated sexuality through strict taboos and procreative mandates, esoteric traditions preserved knowledge of sacred sexuality as a path to enlightenment. The Sefer HaZohar describes in veiled language how the union of the upper waters with the lower waters creates the sea of wisdom. This metaphor for sacred sexual practice represents one of the most carefully guarded secrets of the mystical traditions, suggesting that proper understanding of sexual energy could elevate consciousness beyond ordinary human limitations. Medieval witch hunters were particularly fixated on eradicating these sexual mysteries, recognizing them as fundamental challenges to religious control over human bodies and desires. The Malleus Maleficarum explicitly connects witchcraft to carnal knowledge learned from the demons Lilith and Samael. What these inquisitors feared was not mere physical pleasure, but the radical notion that human sexuality contained sacred power independent of church sanction. Beyond sexuality, the forbidden knowledge attributed to Lilith and Samael encompassed understanding of consciousness itself. Fragmentary texts from mystery schools across the ancient world suggest they taught techniques for altering perception and accessing non-ordinary reality. The marriage of light and shadow, a ritual described in cryptic terms by Alexandrian alchemists, involved systematic dissolution of the boundaries between conscious and unconscious mind, allowing initiates to perceive reality without the filtering mechanisms of ordinary awareness. These consciousness-altering practices posed obvious threats to religious hierarchies dependent on mediating between humanity and divine realms. If individuals could access transcendent states directly through mystical practice, what need remained for priests, churches, or doctrinal authority? The suppression of these teachings coincided with consolidation of religious power structures across multiple cultures and time periods, a pattern too consistent to be coincidental. Archaeological evidence suggests that ancient temples dedicated to Lilith and Samael, or their cultural equivalents, contained astronomical observatories and complex mathematical calculations. The alignment of certain chambers with celestial events indicates sophisticated understanding of cosmic cycles, suggesting their teachings included what we might now call scientific knowledge. Medieval texts refer to the mathematics of Samael and Lilith's star wisdom, bodies of knowledge that integrated empirical observation with mystical interpretation in ways that transcended the emerging dichotomy between science and spirituality. Perhaps most dangerous of all was their teaching regarding the nature of divinity itself. While Orthodox religions positioned God as entirely separate from creation, the mystic traditions influenced by Lilith and Samael suggested a more radical vision. That divinity exists within all things, including humanity. The heretical gospel of Thomas echoes this teaching. The kingdom is inside you and outside you. This pantheistic view undermined the very foundation of religious authority by removing the need for institutional mediation between humans and the divine. Secret societies throughout history have preserved fragments of these teachings, encoding them in symbols, myths, and rituals to evade persecution. The Ophites, an early Gnostic sect, revered the Serpent of Eden as a wisdom-bringer rather than tempter, seeing in Lilith and Samael's rebellion a necessary step in human spiritual evolution. Renaissance alchemists depicted them in symbolic form as the Red King and White Queen whose union produced the Philosopher's Stone, the ultimate symbol of transformed consciousness. Even today, esoteric traditions continue to work with the energies and teachings attributed to these primal beings, though often under different names and guises. Modern occultists, chaos magicians, and heterodox spiritual seekers recognize in the Lilith-Samael dynamic a powerful metaphor for psychological integration and spiritual sovereignty. Their forbidden union remains a potent symbol of humanity's ongoing struggle to reconcile opposing forces, both within the psyche and in our understanding of existence itself. The price for pursuing such knowledge has always been high. Those who sought the wisdom of Lilith and Samael risked not only social ostracism but often their lives, branded as heretics, witches, or demon worshippers. Yet throughout history, seekers have continued to risk everything for glimpses of this forbidden understanding, suggesting its profound value despite, or perhaps because of, its dangerous reputation. The relationship between Lilith and Samael transcends simple categorization, embodying a paradoxical dynamic that mirrors the fundamental tensions of existence itself. They are simultaneously passionate lovers and sworn enemies, their connection fluctuating between periods of intense union and devastating conflict. This eternal cycle of attraction and repulsion represents the cosmic dance of opposing forces necessary for creation to exist. Ancient texts describe their relationship as the embrace that contains all creation and destruction. The 13th century treatise of the Left Emanation characterizes their union as both the source of demonic offspring and a necessary component of cosmic balance. From their coupling, darkness flows into the world, yet without this darkness, the light would blind all creation. This cryptic passage suggests that their conflict serves a higher purpose beyond human moral frameworks. What makes their relationship truly fascinating is its evolving nature across mythological timelines. In early Babylonian accounts, Lilith, as Lilitu, and Samael, as Pazuzu, appear as adversaries, supernatural forces battling for dominance over the night winds. Yet by the medieval period, Kabbalistic texts describe them as the husband and wife whose quarrels shake the foundations of heaven. This transformation from enemies to lovers, albeit tempestuous ones, reflects deeper understanding of how opposing forces relate to each other. The cyclical nature of their relationship follows cosmic patterns. The Sefer Yetzirah, a foundational Kabbalistic text, alludes to the great cycle of separation and return that governs all creation, from the movements of planets to the flow of divine energy through various emanations. Lilith and Samael embody this pattern at its most primal level, eternally drawn together, inevitably driven apart, only to begin the cycle anew. Their relationship isn't static but spirals through time, each reunion and separation occurring at a different level of spiritual evolution. What drives this eternal cycle? At its core lies the tension between individual autonomy and unified purpose. Lilith, embodying the principle of primordial feminine independence, refuses to surrender her sovereignty even in love. Samael, representing masculine creative destructive power, demands recognition of his authority even as he is drawn to Lilith's uncompromising nature. Their relationship symbolizes the fundamental question of whether true union requires sacrifice of individuality, or whether genuine partnership can exist between fully sovereign beings. According to esoteric tradition, their conflicts intensify during periods of human spiritual awakening. The 16th century mystic Isaac Luria described how, when humans begin to question divine authority, the battles between Lilith and Samael grow fierce, for they struggle over humanity's spiritual allegiance. This suggests their relationship directly influences, and is influenced by human consciousness evolution, creating a three-way dynamic between divine power, demonic rebellion, and human spiritual development. Various magical traditions have attempted to work with this dynamic. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn developed elaborate rituals for reconciling the opposites, symbolically represented by Lilith and Samael, though often under different names to avoid Christian censure. These ceremonies aim to harmonize conflicting forces within the practitioner's psyche, mirroring the cosmic process on an individual scale. The underlying principle was that by consciously engaging with these primal energies, humans could participate in and potentially influence the larger cosmic drama. Particularly intriguing are accounts of their offspring, entities born from the volatile union of these powerful beings. The alphabet of Ben Sira claims that hundreds of demons are born each day from their coupling, and hundreds die when they turn against each other. This vivid imagery suggests that their creative and destructive capacities operate simultaneously, with new forms constantly emerging and dissolving as their relationship shifts between harmony and conflict. Some mystical traditions hold that humanity itself originated from this tumultuous union. Certain Gnostic texts propose that while Adam and Eve represent humanity shaped by divine authority, a hidden lineage descended from Lilith and Samael exists within humanity, those who carry an inherent questioning spirit and resistance to arbitrary control. This shadow lineage explains the persistent human tendency toward rebellion against established systems, the innate drive to question rather than simply obey. The sexual dimension of their relationship carries profound metaphysical implications. Unlike the procreative sexuality sanctioned by Orthodox religion, their union represents the ecstatic fusion of opposites that transcends physical reproduction. The Zohar describes their encounters in deliberately paradoxical terms. Their joining is like fire meeting water, impossible yet occurring beyond the realm where contradictions must resolve. This impossible union becomes a template for mystical experience itself, the transcendence of duality that ordinary consciousness perceives as irreconcilable. Perhaps most significantly, their ongoing battle creates the necessary tension for evolution to occur. Without the dynamic friction between these opposing forces, creation would either collapse into perfect unity, losing all differentiation and therefore all form, or fragment into chaotic disconnection, losing all coherence and meaning. Their eternal conflict maintains the productive tension that allows complex systems, from galaxies to ecosystems to human civilizations, to emerge and evolve. Modern psychological interpretations view Lilith and Samael as archetypes representing aspects of the human psyche in eternal dialogue. Jungian analysts have identified them as embodiments of the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine principles that must be integrated for psychological wholeness. Their stormy relationship mirrors the internal struggle many experience when attempting to reconcile seemingly contradictory aspects of their own nature. What makes this relationship truly forbidden is not its supernatural nature, but its radical implications for how we understand power, authority, and autonomy. Their union suggests that opposition is not the enemy of creation but its necessary component, that harmony doesn't require the elimination of difference but its proper integration, that true balance comes not from static perfection but from dynamic tension between equally powerful forces. As we contemplate the eternal cycle of union and separation between these primal beings, we glimpse a more complex cosmology than simple good versus evil, one where opposing forces serve necessary functions in an interconnected system, where conflict generates creativity, and where even the most fundamental antagonists remain irrevocably connected by bonds of attraction that transcend conventional understanding. In their eternal battle, Lilith and Samael remind us that the most profound relationships contain both love and conflict, creation and destruction, separation and unity, not as flaws to be overcome, but as essential components of a dynamic whole.